Gardens.
Okay, so Dr. Danni, you're always good for dropping big things on me. And things are eye-opening. It's the month of women business and all that. Tons of women businesses opening, celebrating, tons of women doing some really great things. A lot of big numbers in business. Let's go talk about it. Sobering what you just told me a little while ago.
Ooh,
yes.
yes.
All right, so drop that on us again. So when you hear about women opening business, all these women business owners, women are just out there killing it, doing all those things.
Yes.
The floor is yours.
So let's start with the good news.
Yes, the good news.
The good news is that if we would look somewhere around 13 to 14 years ago, we are talking about a parabolic increase in the number of women-owned business. Okay. And those leading the bunch are women of color, particularly African-American women. So where we might have had, maybe 1 million, there's now 11.6 million women-owned businesses in America.
A big number.
Big number.
A very big number.
Yes.
A very big
number.
That's the good news.
That's some good news. They account for somewhere on the order of $1.7 trillion of economic impact.
Okay.
It sounds like a big number.
That's still a big number.
But when you take the dollars and you divide it by the numbers of businesses, you come up with something on the order of $149,000 in annual revenue.
150 grand, basically.
150 grand. Mm-hmm. And so
now you said to get to that 150 grand of average, you got to have some bigger numbers.
Right.
But you're saying that a good portion of that falls on the lower line.
Correctly. So a good portion of that falls way below the line. And if you remember, one of the facts that I gave is that the lion's share of those new business starts, the rate of new business starts are exploded with African-American women-owned businesses. And yet the average minority woman-owned business is below $25,000.
Okay, so now that's going to go back to another point that you make on a regular basis. We come from parents and other folks who believe in OPM, using other people's money.
Other people's money.
But you're saying a lot of times those women are going two places. One, they're dipping into the pocketbook to get the money, or either they're doing this number.
Out the bra.
Exactly. Here you go. Pulling out the money out of their own personal stash.
Yeah. So on average, less than 25% of women ever use money outside of their own bank account. And so what that means is those businesses tend to grow slower. They probably, if you look at a 3-year round, like it's a 3-year window, they tend to go out of business at a higher rate because they're trying to do so much with so little. And the point that I really want to make, Mike, is that the time to go and get money is early on. If you've got a good year or two of business under your belt and you've been responsible that you have a growing revenue line, the time to get a line of credit or to get other people's money is then, not when you're in trouble and now your credit is bad.
Because that money is going to cost you more if you can get it.
If you can get it, it's going to cost you more. And so this idea of grant money, all of that sounds good, cute, and sexy, but there's not a lot of that out there. And there is some money that you can get. And during ENC, which is the Executive Networking Conference hosted by the National Institute of Minority Economic Development, that is going to be happening in Pinehurst the second week in August. There's going to be a section that the WBC Richmond is sponsoring in conjunction with our partners at AARP. Good afternoon, Felicia Brown from
That's
AARP.
your partner?
Yes, she is on our council, our business council, but they're sponsoring it because they're going to be talking about crowdfunding, angel funding, and things of that nature, which is another thing that women and minorities take part in very, very sparingly. Less than 1% of venture capital's money go into a minority firm.
One of the things, the whole crowdfunding, that source of financing right there, I think we as minorities look at it kind of skeptical. But the idea that somebody's going to angel invest in you is even more remote than you getting money from strangers.
And my argument is we need to be thinking about those things that not just celebrate people getting in business. We need to not just survive COVID and just business in general. We need to start thriving. And thriving requires that we have a bigger economic footprint and a bigger economic imprint or impact, as I would say. And those things require us to be more strategic than tactical, which is one of the challenges that women and minority small owned firms. And I usually steer away from the small word. I'm just going to have to put that out there, particularly in our service area, the Commonwealth of Virginia. The definition for a small business is big.
It's big. Yeah, when you start talking about, and even when I talk to Carl Knobloch from SBA or Martin Short, they're kind of like, boy, for a small business, those don't sound small.
Correct.
And that's different than the one person shop, the solopreneur making whatever. And then you start talking about a place with 50 employees. Mm-hmm. That's a difference.
Right. So just to put some information out there, today is an information day. Dr. Danny's just going to be dropping little facts. Please pay attention. You'll hear them again, but it's important to note because this is a day of advocacy, connecting, and engaging. When we think about what it means to define a small business, we have a different definition. So when someone says, and I'm gonna throw this in there because I'm random about some things. Let me just say this. If someone say affordable housing or small business, make sure you ask for their definition because affordable housing varies based on and a small business is in the state of Virginia, if you make less than $10 million.
10 million.
10. If you have less than 250 employees, 250. And it's not and, it's or. So if I have 300 employees and I make less than $10 million, guess what I am?
You're a small business.
I'm a small business.
I say to people when they say it, I'm a small business when I need to be.
Correct.
Then there are times that is I'm just a business owner.
Yes.
And
that's exactly right. Because all of those little definitions can be relative. And so it's important to put a pin in it that the businesses that we're talking about, the underserved, the women owned, a lot of times we sometimes call them micro business, but they're like nano, smaller than, that particle that's nano business compared to the size of some of these construction opportunities that's coming through the pike, the diamond district stuff, all of that. You are sometimes not on the radar, and we need to change that perspective. We want to be a vehicle for advocating the just perspective around small businesses until Virginia decides to change that and recognize what a real small business, because I just want to tell you this. A lot of us know companies, Owens & Minor, Dominion, and Philip Morris and Altria. 99.5% of the businesses in the Commonwealth of Virginia are defined as small. That's a problem. That's a challenge. I ain't gonna say problem. That's a challenge.
When your revenue is 32,000 and 95% of the other businesses in the state are small businesses and they're making 150, not 1,000, 150 million.